Welcome to the Nuclear Snail channel. The camera is a bit lower today because I'm gonna be showing you this hip and leg gear that I've made. Now, before we start with all the fun stuff, a short safety notice. As you will see, this is based on some industrial climber's harness that has been decommissioned. If you ever come across decommissioned climbing gear, it is of course very cool looking. This is why I use it for costuming, but it is just for show. You should never ever use decommissioned climbing gear for climbing because it has been decommissioned. It's no longer safe to use for climbing. Especially if it has been changed a lot like this. This might look like climbing gear, but it is not. So never ever use decommissioned climbing gear for actual climbing. With that out of the way, this is the belt part of the climbing harness, and to that I have attached a bunch of other stuff. Tactical bags and some self-made armor right here with a knife holster. This one was an accident. I'll get to that soon. So it has a cobra buckle here. Opens and closes really easily. And here we have some of those German Y-harness or Koppeltragegestell buckles. And on these buckles sits this logo plate. So I made this gear for a client, and this is his logo. He made the sketch, and then Mark Cordori finished the graphic. So thanks to Mark for providing me with the graphic. Now this here is engraved in an aluminum plate, and it just sits on top of those belts right here. And these belts are connected with this bolt, so underneath all this, like this belt continues to be connected there. It's not really carrying anything, it's just for cool looks to have this sort of a slanted line going on here. You see this square surface plus this square surface plus this square surface that these two buckles build. They're aligned in a line, in a slanted line, which makes the whole composition a lot more dynamic. So this is that. And here they're just attached with some large washers to this net-like material of those tactical pouches. It's this right here is a piece of a tactical vest, by the way. Also, this bag right here is attached to my pants. It's not part of the hip gear, even if it looks like it right now. So while we're here, this compass right here, it used to be not orange. I spray painted it orange so it stands out more. Because if it was just the same olive color as everything else, it would just not be as cool as it is right now. I wanted it to pop. I wanted to have like a look at me detail right there. So this is cool looking, and at the same time actually also practical. You can break it out at any point and look at the compass, see where north is, or see whether or not it's pointing at your dick. Maybe your dick was magnetized, which is a growing problem nowadays. It's a real hazard, so you never know. So it's good to have a compass. And on this side, there is some decoration. Land Transportation Department of the Russian Army. And this big round thing is just, you know, some random piece of metal. I think some computer part or so. So it fit perfectly in here. So that's the compass. Also added those two buckles right here so that the whole thing on this side doesn't look like it's like that's it, you know. If you look at this and compare it to this, this is kind of like a continuation of the story. Not only does it bounce this angle back towards this side, which also has metal, so it is completing the visual composition, but also it looks like there is some more stuff that might be going here around the leg or whatever. So it just adds a bit more story. Okay, so this is why it's here. Same reason as everything else. On these bags, sorry, on these bags there are some simple stencils. I didn't take too much care to make the paint go just where it's supposed to. I wanted it to make just fast, so it looks like it's been like stenciled quickly after the apocalypse, which is fine. Adds a bit of chaos, a bit of you know, disorder, which is something that I recently struggled to get into my works. So I have to, in my case personally, it will not apply to most people, but for me personally, I have to take extra steps to make my work less orderly, so it looks more believable and not too well, too perfectly designed, which again makes it actually less perfect, if that makes sense. And here we have a bag into which I think a foldable shovel fits, usually. Sprayed the logo of the Bunker Ypsilon on this, which is just something I came up with, so all of my bunker gear gets this now. And what I did here, it's detachable. I've just attached one of those harness clips to the back of it, just 2 bolts through here. Open it up. And you can see the washers here, and all the bags right now are filled with some kitchen towels for volume. Don't worry, after I'm done with the video and making photos of it, the kitchen towels go into my crafting crate, and I use them later on for applying paints and whatnot. So this is just dangling here. This is important for comfort, so when I sit down there is no rigid bag full of stuff blocking me from doing so, but it just, you know, goes out of the way. And here I also left some belts hanging from this tactical vest and also from that climbing harness. Could have chopped them off, but really this just adds again a bit of chaos, a bit of a different sort of shapes and story than if it was all just perfectly structured and rigid, quote unquote. So just a bit of useless belt there. Might be used for something later on, but yeah. Now, there was one important thing about this that I didn't really mention yet. There is this small plastic lip right here. I hope you can see it well enough on camera. And what this does is make this whole plate look a little bit less naked, like it has some base to it. It's just a small plastic strip that you can see. On the other side you see I've attached it like this. But what it does, yeah, it just makes this thing looks kind of more full. And if we look at the micro detail here, there is this square surface, then there is this small step, and then it extends further, so it's like step, step, step. It is a nice transition, it is a nice complement to it, and small details like this a lot of times make the whole thing look more full and more believable, if you know what I mean. So, continuing on here, on this side, this part is a piece of another tactical vest, the bags of it. Here you can see the other half of that plastic lip, by the way. It was one of those things from the climbing belt, right here, one just like this, so I chopped it in half and attached it here. And this is where it's possible to put some small stuff. I personally would, if I didn't carry my valuables in the pockets of my pants, but wanted them to be in the gear, this is where I would put them. Well, this Velcro is locking it pretty nicely, okay? Also a small department with zipper here, or compartment, and I've added a stencil here as well, just to load it with detail a bit, as well as here, and you know, some red highlights, as I often do in my work, to reflect other red highlights. And this right here, this was a tag from something. You can still see some lines and font. It says armor something something and some washing instructions. So this wasn't here originally. It might have been from the same vest, or maybe not, I'm not sure. But the way I attached it here is not sewing. For God's sake, I wouldn't want to sew this by hand. I just used some instant glue and just pressed them against each other, and yeah. And it seems to hold pretty well. It doesn't peel off. This right here, the usual method, just take an insignia, put a hole in the middle of it carefully and fasten it. I find that usually you'll lose all of your insignias with time if you just use, you know, the standard small metal pins that come with the insignias. So that's why I just usually go nuclear and go, you know, the full way and just bolt it. And this is a cute small detail here. A ladybug on a clamp like this. Like, this is prone to losing, so yeah, gotta be careful with that. But I think this really brings the composition together on the micro level of detail. And it adds like a tiny, cute, funny twist to this otherwise, oh my god, so serious and tactical looking thingamajig. Alright, so moving on from this. So this is just, it's not fastened here or here, by the way, just three bolts. One is here, and it's attached to that main belt. One is here, and one is here, so it can just actually flap up like this. And you can see that here to this bottom panel, which we're getting to now, there is this Velcro that was on there originally, and this is also a piece of Velcro. So this is hook, this is soft, and the cool thing about this, if I want it to be here, I can do this. Now it's here. I can detach it, I can move it back here, and there we go. I want it to sit lower, I open up, I do like this. Velcro is nice. How firmly is it attached with that small strip of Velcro? Firmly enough that, I mean, I could rip it off, as you see, if I use a lot of force, but this is not the kind of force that will usually be applied to your stuff when you just walk around with it for show. And even running with it, like if I were to play airsoft with this or something, I don't think it would immediately tear off. I wouldn't play airsoft with this, it's way too uncomfortable for that, but just theoretically. Moving on to the leg armor thingamajig here. So, first of all, this is a training knife right here. This is not a proper LARP knife, it's too stiff and hard for that. It's a training knife, and I found out after the fact that it fits perfectly right in here. As some of you might notice, this is of course not realistic. Carrying a real knife like this would not be an option because, as you see, a part of the blade and especially the tip are sticking out in a really nasty manner, so it is a safety hazard. But at the same time, it is also leaving the blade exposed to the world and to the elements, and also this metal bracket would just make it dull. So it is not realistic to carry a real knife like this on multiple levels. That said, this is not a real knife, and within the LARP logic, if you will, or just show item logic in this case, I think this still looks pretty cool. Not everything needs to be realistic to just look cool. Okay, so this right here, let me tilt the camera a bit more. This right here is a drywall connector. Got it from the construction store. You've seen me use those before on some other builds. Spray painted it black, added some red detail right here. And then I was like, hey, there is like a slot here. Hope you can see it. Probably not too well, but it fits this knife rather well, or it could fit some other gadget or something else. Now, if this was an actual LARP knife, like a soft one with latex painting, over time, even maybe after a couple of uses, this edge right here, it's not like super sharp, but it's sharp enough to mess with the latex and paint job, so I don't think it's a good thing to carry an actual LARP knife in there. If you like the knife, and if it's made the traditional method anyway, but this fits nicely. And it's, you know, it's right where I'm standing like this. It's even comfortable to just have my hand here, so this can be deployed immediately to face whatever mutants or raiders. But I'll put this aside for now. So you can see here just 3 aluminum panels, that's it. There is some small letter punches in here, just to add some additional detail. And these guys right here are also drywall connectors, just some other type. So these are, again, in construction stores, you can get them cheap. Depending on where you are, you might not get exact same models, but drywall connectors really look cool. Just gotta watch out with their edges, you know. So they are just here for detail and decoration. I spray painted them black, so it goes along with the main belts here that are also black. Breaks up the whole composition of it just being olive everywhere, you know. So I think black and olive with red highlights and some metallic highlights makes a cool look. Up here we have this belt, which actually doesn't do much. It was on the climbing harness. I figured might as well reuse it. It's attached with a single bolt back here on this panel. The panel itself is, by the way, it's just kind of a bag-ish thing. I think also part of an old tactical vest. You can see a zipper here. So I've put some EVA foam inside as a padding, and it's enclosed from one side, and from the other side it wasn't, because I've cut it in half to make it proper size. But then I also, you know, flipped the fabric over. You've seen it in my metal armor videos. A similar technique, just in this case I had kind of a bag-like thing to start with, instead of going from zero. Anyway, this is a padding which holds the whole thing on itself. So everything is, the belts are attached to it, the panels are attached to it, the usual. So, and this belt is attached here, and it just goes around the leg and clips in here into this second cobra buckle, which I think looks cool. Now, an important thing composition-wise here, I could have just done this and made the belt, you know, parallel, but especially with this kind of vertical line and then a parallel vertical line of the belt and stuff, this composition on this side would get really stale. So I wanted it to be more dynamic, to look, again, both for the story and also for the visual composition, to have a bit more slant to it. So this is going like this. Looks just a bit more improvised and just more dynamic if we're talking pure aesthetics. So as I've said, this belt is not doing much in terms of functionality. Maybe it keeps this part on the top a bit from, you know, unfolding like this and becoming too flat, but really for the most part it's just there for its own sake, just for looking cool, like, well, the whole rig basically. That's its purpose, looking cool. This bottom belt right here, it goes around the leg. Just a big plastic buckle here. And it's also adjustable. And it just goes around the leg like this. And here, by the way, you can see the flectarn of this baggish thing, whatever it was. So, let's go around to the bad ass. I couldn't resist making that joke. I was like, there is this big plastic panel there, so might as well do some kind of a joke there. So there it is. It's the bad ass. Ha ha. My ass is bad. Really though. I really need to train my glutes more. And I really like these. Didn't talk about those yet. So just parts of that original climbing gear. Stuff can be clipped into them. Could just go like this. And clip. There we go. Samurai. Axe. Samurai. Not only can they be used for clipping stuff into them, they also can be used to rock your hips. Cock your hip, rock your hip. Yeah, cowboy. So yeah, all in all, I'm really happy with how this turned out. And now, as the tradition goes, I will undress myself for you. At least I will take all of this off so you can see how it's put on and off. So already shown you this. Let's start with that. Disengage this. Open that. Here is the panel. And I can either take this off entirely or I can leave it on. I'll leave it on there. Then we open up these two buckles. And then the main belt. By the way, here is of course still a lot of adjustability in it. And this thing kind of pivots, which is cool. So there is the main buckle. And it opens up like this. All there is to it. If you are a regular viewer, then support me on Patreon. The link is in the video description. Also join the Nuclear Snail community group on Facebook. The link is also in the video description. And as usual, I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, hail the snail.